There's a line in the movie Margin Call that's always stuck with me. There are three ways to make a living in this business: be first, be smarter, or cheat. Well, I don't cheat, and even though I like to think we got some pretty smart people in the building, it sure is a hell of a lot easier to just be first. This line, "It sure is a hell of a lot easier to just be first," it reminded me of a strategy framework in the book Your Strategy Needs a Strategy from Martin Reeves. The book talks about 5 strategy archetypes that are arranged in business environments along the dimensions of malleability, the ability to shape a market, predictability, the ability to predict a trend, and harshness, the ability to survive market conditions. The archetypes are 5 approaches to strategy that depend on the market and the way the business operates in. They are 1. Classical, be big; 2. Adaptive, be fast; 3. Visionary, be first; 4. Shaping, be the orchestrator; and 5. Renewal, be viable. Let's take a look at each. Classical approach to strategy occurs where the market is predictable and stable, and a market where once you gain a competitive advantage, you're likely to keep it in the long run, especially if you continue to improve your market execution. To win in a market using classical strategy, companies tend to know exactly what gives them an edge, and also they know how the risk of disruption is relatively low, so they invest in capabilities with relative certainty that will allow them to maintain that competitive advantage. Big, fast-moving consumer good brands like Procter & Gamble, for example, that would employ classical strategy. Adaptive approach to strategy occurs when the market is unpredictable and unstable. Here, competitive advantage is often short-lived, and it requires businesses to react quickly or constantly experiment to win. Technology, or especially technology service firms like Accenture and the Infosys of the world, tend to be adaptive. Here, competitive advantage is often temporary and the risk for disruption is high. And because it's difficult to predict where the new threat may come from, companies that play using the adaptive approach are frequently running experiments and in parallel investing in capabilities that help them be nimble in case they need to move on an opportunity very quickly. Visionary approach to strategy is about new and unique solutions to problems in the market. Visionary leaders tend to be able to shape and predict the market because they are effectively creating a new space or category in their market with their unique offering. Many of the big tech companies applied this approach, whether it was Amazon or Dropbox or Slack, or even Notion, which is a productivity app where I organize all of my work. I will circle back to this one later in the video and talk about why this is possibly one of the best strategies for new businesses. Shaping approach to strategy is about shaping a proposition in an unpredictable market. It's similar to visionary, but it's about shaping the market before other competitors do it. And we see this with mostly platform-based companies like Apple with their ecosystem and app store, or Steam for its gaming platform and marketplace. The market itself is volatile and fast-moving, but the companies create the platform and ecosystem and also the rules that we operate in. Companies that play in the shaping approach to strategy often lean on collaboration and feedback from both sides of the platform, like on the suppliers on one side and the consumers on the other side, so that they can create a platform that is up-to-date and relevant despite a constantly changing market. And this is one way platform-based businesses can maintain their competitive edge. And lastly, the renewal approach to strategy is about turning around a business in a harsh competitive environment. It's typically about survival in, say, a declining market, so it can pivot to one of the 4 more viable strategies. Similar to when Starbucks lost 30% of its revenues during the 2008 financial crisis and turned around the business by investing in technology and community for coffee lovers. There are many strategic approaches available to businesses, big and small. But oftentimes, like the line from Margin Call, it sure is a lot easier to just be first. An interpretation of being first is not the literal invention of new technology to be first, but it's about the creation of new value. Many businesses that we see as visionary today use existing technology and wait out participants to evolve the technology before they shape the market with their own unique approach to solving the problem using existing technology assets. The visionary is able to spot unmet demand and develop a new and different solution to cater for that demand. The visionary is able to see something that other market participants can't see or are too distracted to see. I like using Canva, for example, for social media graphics. Canva was not the first to create a desktop publishing application, but it did see that there was no real alternative to Photoshop, which required a high level of technical expertise to use. So Canva stripped away most of the features of Photoshop and created an easy-to-use application that non-designers could pick up and use. A popular frame, and one I like to use as well, is the market positioning map, where you pick 2 dimensions, typically dollars in one dimension and quality or similar in the second dimension, and plot your competitors into those dimensions. Here's an example from Canva's early pitch, where they were raising funding. You can see in the image here how Canva locates the gap and shapes the market with its big idea, which is creative expression with a lot of the learning or expense. It basically carves out a new category that makes design easy to learn and use for anyone and available at low monthly price or for free in the basic plan. Canva creates this new and different solution in a market filled with many design software options, yet none of the participants at the time thought of simplifying its application in such a way that even non-designers could use it to make beautiful graphics. And with growth in creators on social media exploding, Canva doubled down on its library of ready-to-use templates to make it even easier to quickly make graphics for various social media platforms. The popular book Blue Ocean Strategy goes into a lot of depth and popularized this topic of creating uncontested markets, which it calls the Blue Ocean market, which is effectively your own category. But this concept of creating your own category holds true even in the smallest of business, say a business of one. You could say it works even better in smaller businesses. Let's go meta for a second and talk about Overnight Strategist, which as of today is a one-person business, me. We're in the early stages of this brand. With the Overnight Strategist, I wanted to carve out a small space in the market for practical strategy training that is both modern and friendly. Training that focuses on giving professionals the tools, techniques, and methods that will help them make their strategy, which is different to typical strategy training that tends to be academic and a bit too dry. It includes my own unique take on strategy as a practitioner, and it doesn't try to compete with big institutions who do certificates and short courses on strategy theory. And it's imbued with my own philosophies on strategy, like my earlier videos on the building blocks of a strategist and the path to becoming a full stack strategist. Now, I'm not saying that I'm necessarily right about these concepts. It's simply my take on being a strategist. The market and time will let me know if my guess was right or wrong. And if I'm right, I'll double down. And if I'm wrong, I'll listen and I'll tweak. And my guess is there'll be a space for practical strategy training in this market, because in my view, after all the talking is done, you still actually need to sit down and make the strategy. And it's in the making of the strategy that Overnight Strategist intends to play in. And we'll create our own space in the market for strategy training, because I want those who join Overnight Strategist to have an unfair advantage so you can crush it in your workplace. If you're enjoying this sort of strategy content, then I encourage you to check out overnightstrategist.com to get access to quality tools and training so you can make ridiculously good strategy. To wrap up this video, if you're in a position of selecting a strategic option, picking the be first visionary approach to strategy is appealing because you can carve out a space in your market that your competitors are not playing in with your unique product or service. One of the reasons I advocate for the full stack strategist is that it gives you optionality to create a unique service proposition which lets you create a market that only you exist in.